Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Pittsburgh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. And we are ready for round 10 action where we've got Ben Stark and Matt Baccio ready to battle it out in the black-green. Calling it a mirror is probably not accurate.
Yeah, so taking a look at Ben Stark's list, he's playing actually a very different take on the deck. He's got 3 copies of Gnarlwood Dryad in the main deck. He's got a bit more of a Delirium theme, and he's actually a bit more aggressive, too. He's also got 4 copies of Scrap Heap Scrounger. It's a really good card against control. It's interesting that he chose to make this decision because Scrap Heap Scrounger is not particularly good against Mardu vehicles, but he has made some adjustments, playing the full 4 copies of Fatal Push in the main deck. Now, Matt Baccio is playing kind of more like a straight-up green-black Delirium control deck. This is kind of going back a little more to the old-school version of black-green Delirium, where you're playing 2 copies of Ishkana along with Fort Traverse the Ulvenwald, and doesn't actually have any Winding Constrictors in his deck.
What the?
Yeah.
Has he read that card?
Yeah, no Snecks.
Okay.
Wow.
And what is going on with Ben here? Did he just pass the turn back on 2?
Maybe.
Isn't his like the most aggressive version of this black-green deck that we've seen?
Yeah, so he's got 12 2-drops along with 3 Gnarlwood Dryads, and it doesn't look like he has any of them.
That's a weird draw for Ben.
Yeah.
Also, what was Matt thinking about there? You see that pause?
Yeah, I'm not exactly
This
sure.
is getting interesting, isn't it?
Maybe it's just really early, and their brains aren't really working right now. Okay. So based on the way the game's playing out, it looks like we're in for a long one, at least for the first one. Sometimes when you see the black-green Constrictor deck with their fast draws involving the Winding Constrictor, the games tend to end pretty quickly, but not the case here.
If Ben couldn't play anything on 2, well, he's still on 2 mana without Evolving Wild, so he just plays it and passes the turn back to Matthew. This has to favor Matthew, right? Like, Ben is trying to play this more assertive version with the Gnarlwood Dryads and the extra 2-drops.
Yeah,
I would assume he's the aggressor in this matchup.
Most definitely. Both of the decks are playing lots of removal, but Matt Baccio is playing, again, multiple copies of Ishkana, 2 copies of Gonti in the main deck, and 3 copies of Liliana the Last Hope.
Well, this is really interesting, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because basically what you're saying is that Matthew Baccio has gone about a half a step slower, while Ben Stark has gone about half a step faster.
Exactly. And Ben, it looks like he actually has creatures in hand, but is kind of choosing to slow roll them because Matt Baccio's deck packs a ton of removal, and I think he's just kind of waiting for the right time to deploy his threats. Because I think I saw a Walking Ballista in his hand.
Okay, well, right now he's deciding if he wants to kill this Grimflayer. Apparently, he's going to sacrifice his Evolving Wilds. That's a card he can use to turn on Fatal Push, so he doesn't need it here. And he has access to double black as well, does Ben.
Yeah, Ben also could have just been aware that Matt Baccio was playing Black-Green Delirium. He could have kept a hand with, multiple copies of Tireless Tracker and just kind of waiting till his 4th turn to actually play the tracker so he can get the value off of it.
Okay.
But we'll see.
And then, so the big decision for Ben there was not if I'm going to kill the Grimflayer, it was do I sacrifice my Evolving Wilds, it sounds like.
Sure.
If he hits an untapped land, he can go tracker.
Yeah.
Evolving Wilds. But it looks like he's just going to be content to pass the turn back. So what I'm assuming here is that Ben is on, he's really trying to tailor this to the hand that he's drawn.
Right.
He's got a removal heavy hand or something like that. Oh, there's a Tireless Tracker for Matt.
Yeah, and both decks are actually playing 3 copies of Tireless Tracker in the main deck, which isn't something that's very common. And it looks like both of them are basically kind of tailored their decks to be a little better in the mirror because Tracker is great in these kind of grindy mid-range matchups.
Yeah, demands an answer immediately, which Ben happens to have with the Grasp of Darkness. But as you see, there's a clue sitting there.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you play these grindy mid-range matchups, it's all about incremental card advantage. Just making sure you play your Tracker with the land. You don't want to run out of Tireless Tracker on turn 3. You want to make sure you play it with the land. And the reason why I think, again, Matt Baccio is favored here is because, sure, he lost his Tireless Tracker, but he has 3 copies of Liliana to get them back, whereas Ben doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for Ben Stark. He just is not on a quick start here. Ben's going to sacrifice his Walking Ballista to do 2 damage to Matt. But these transactions have either been neutral or favored Matt so far.
Yeah. So we did test this matchup a little bit. If the games go super long and Ben doesn't have a fast start, then sure, the green-black Delirium deck is a little more favored. But if Ben did have a quick draw with Verdurish Gearhulk, we found that Ishkanah is actually more of a fog than anything, because the combination of Winding Constrictor plus Verdurish Gearhulk just makes it so the spiders are actually very bad at blocking.
That's interesting. Such a great blocking card, but just not up to the task. A second copy of Tireless Tracker for Baccio. Well, I shouldn't even say that. It's the same copy of Tireless Tracker, but he got it back with Grapple with the past.
Yeah, so again, Matt Baccio has 5 ways to basically return one of the more important cards in the matchup, Tireless Tracker, back into play. And you really just, you're starting to see just kind of the advantage that he's going to get out of this.
Here's a Traverse the Ulvenwald from Ben Stark. He does have creature artifact instant land, so he's able to have Delirium and go get whatever he wants there, and he's going to go get, you guessed it, Tireless Tracker.
Yeah.
Let's see if he has the Evolving Wilds to follow it up. Oh, baby.
Yep.
So now he's right back in this thing.
Yeah, Ben's playing the full 4 copies of Evolving Wilds in his deck, and I think it's primarily because he's playing 3 copies of Tireless Tracker. Also, he's playing a more Delirium-centric version of the deck. He really needs to get the land in the yard, and without cards like Vessel of Nascency and Grapple with the Past, this deck actually has a much more difficult time getting Delirium. Getting a land in your graveyard is very hard.
Did he just play a second Traverse?
Yeah, it looks like
he went and got a Gearhulk?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ben Stark showing that his deck is not all about that quick start. He certainly has some long game punch here as well and has positioned himself nicely. As you can see, it looks like it's tied. Both players with 6 lands, Tireless Tracker, and 2 clues. But given that we know that 3 cards in hand for Ben Stark, one of them being Verdurous Gearhulk, that sounds pretty good to me. I like his position here.
So looking at the Botanical Sanctum that I see out of Matt Baccio's deck.
What's the blue for there?
I'm assuming he's playing something very similar to Ben Rubin's list from the Pro Tour, where he's splashing blue for Metallic Rebuke in the sideboard.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to know at all if he was actually playing that same exact list. You know, Matt, he's a longtime East Coast player. He made the finals of GP Louisville in 2016, and his teammates were Tillman Bragg and, Ben Rubin.
Yep.
So BR probably hooked him up with the list, is my guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Matt Baccio and Tillman were actually coworkers of mine when I used to live in the Caribbean.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were some pretty good friends back in the day.
Now you hate them? Or?
Yeah, now they're the worst. Matt Baccio, an interesting decision. 2 main deck copies of Natural Obsolescence. He was ready for the Vehicles deck.
This is in the sideboard, right?
No, it's in the main deck.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bold.
Well, it will get rid of the Verdurous Gearhulk when Ben Stark chooses to play it.
It will.
If he has one.
Also, you mentioned this yesterday, Paul, and I think it's very relevant. Really good against Scrap Heap Scrounger, too. I think can be really annoying for these decks.
Yeah.
All right, Matt's going to start getting the old the clue train rolling.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And
Combo.
That's going to give him Revolt for Ben Stark's copy of Fatal Push that he had stolen with his Gonti there, and that was huge.
Yeah,
that was a big deal. Like, if Ben gets to untap there, things get really ugly for Baccio, and as it stands, they're medium.
Yeah, fantastic turn from Matt Baccio. There's just...
I love this from Ben, by the way.
Yeah.
So he played Walking Ballista for 6 mana total and just immediately fired all 3 of the counters off, killing it at the Tireless Tracker. Ben knows, this sucks. I don't want to spend my entire turn to kill your Tireless Tracker, but he's probably happy that he had a way to get it off the table at all.
Yeah, you definitely have to get rid of the trackers or they will kind of get out of hand. But I think Matt Baccio is currently favored here because he's the first person to have been able to cash in the clues. He's got a threat on the board. And again, multiple ways to get back that tracker.
Matt's going to attack with Gonti. But that wasn't a haymaker turn for him necessarily, right? There's no Gearhulk there or something.
Yeah.
So is Ben just going to make an 8-8? What's his game plan? Oh, another tireless tracker.
Yeah.
And bang.
Verdurous Gearhulk. I wonder if Matt Baccio has a Grasp of Darkness here.
Is that what Ben's thinking too?
Yeah.
Because what he's going to do is he's going to pick and he has to target, right? And Matt can respond.
Right. And the thing is, if he chooses to put all the counters on Verdurous Gearhulk, Matt can still use the Grasp of Darkness on the Verdurous Gearhulk. But Tireless Tracker is the more important threat, so he doesn't really want to put too many counters there either, because Matt Baccio is more likely to go after the Tireless Tracker here.
Right.
So I kind of like Ben's distribution. You want to put at least one counter on the Verdurous Gearhulk so that it can be Grasp of Darkness proof.
Yes. Like if he doesn't have it now,
Right.
a draw step and a turn or two isn't going to take out your big threat.
Yeah, I think 2 and 2 is a decent play. Actually, 3 and 1 is nice because then Matt Baccio can't just have 2 Grasp of Darknesses to get rid of both. So they're both 5 toughness.
And that is what he went with. So we've seen this time and time again. Verdurous Gearhulk is just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
He now has 11 power on board and has really once again forced Matt to do something.
Yeah, Matt Baccio has to have removal here. He's got a grip full of cards.
God, another tireless tracker.
Is
What
that
is
the third one?
Well, yeah, he played one of them twice, but yeah.
Yeah.
It still counts. Yeah. Gonti looks pretty good here too.
Yeah. Great blocker. And is Ben? Does he have no cards in
He's
hand?
hell-bent, man.
All right.
Well,
He's got 3
none of
clues
them in his
play.
hand, yeah.
Yeah.
But in a turn, he'll have a full grip of cards. And right now, Baccio's not applying pressure to Ben, so he will have time to crack those clues.
Baccio needs like a consulate crackdown here.
Oh, jeez. Take out all those clues and the Gearhulk. You know, there are some people with those in their sideboards. Not the black-green deck, obviously, but, you know.
Yeah, it is a very powerful effect.
Yeah.
I would be pretty shocked if Matt Baccio didn't have a way to deal with that Tireless Tracker in his hand. Four mana. Okay. So Ben's got to be feeling pretty great right now.
This is not the powerhouse turn that Baccio, at least that Ben was fearing, right?
Right. Again, Matt Baccio drew a ton of cards, had a ton of cards in hand, and both of his large creatures didn't get killed. Ben's going to be able to likely find another land and get an extra clue out of that Tireless Tracker. So great spot for Ben here. If he can find a removal spell for the Gonti, he can get in for a lot of damage this turn.
Yeah.
He could even Fatal Push to Gonti as he sacked some of the clues.
Will he attack with the Gearhulk in either scenario? Like, is that would he trade a Gearhulk for a Gonti and some damage?
That's actually a great question.
It's kind of a judgment call.
Yeah. It would really depend on what else Ben's working with in his hand.
Yeah, looks like he is going to go for it.
Right.
Also, he could just have a removal spell in his hand, right?
Yeah.
Trample would hit anyway.
Although attacking with just the Gearhulk tells me that it's unlikely that Ben has a removal spell.
Yeah. Because he would have just used it and then slammed.
And then attack with the 7/5 Title Tracker. Okay.
Well, he's got a pair.
Yeah.
Pocket flares there for Ben Stark. He's going to put both of them on the battlefield. And those are 2 4/4s. I mean, they're big.
They are big.
You know, they're not Gearhulks, but they're pretty big. 4/4 tramples.
There's definitely going to be putting pressure on Matt. I wonder if we're going to be seeing one of those Ishkanas enter the battlefield anytime soon.
Ishkanal looks actually pretty decent here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Tireless Tracker is huge, but there's some blocking that can happen where the Gearhulk, like you said, really changes that.
You know, when Matt Baccio was doing the graveyard check here, you're just kind of thinking, all right, what is he? Is this a Liliana? You got to grapple with the past. What's going on here?
He's fiddling around with the graveyard. Can he do much with this Walking Ballista? Not really, right?
No.
Even putting 2 counters on it just has it trade for a flare.
We were kind of talking about how Walking Ballista is fantastic in these against like the small creature decks, but when you're looking at, what is that, an 8/7 tireless tracker along with the pocket flares that are in play, not doing a whole lot. It looks like Matt Baccio did not have Delirium, so he actually sacrificed the Walking Ballista to put an artifact in his graveyard, and then used to traverse the Ulvenwald to get a Noxious Gearhulk. Wow.
God, how did he not have Delirium?
I have no
He
idea.
had 8 cards in his graveyard, and his deck is named Black Green Delirium. Feels like something went wrong there, but all right.
All right, Noxious Gearhulk has to be eating that Tireless Tracker, gain 7 life. And keep in mind, Ben is down to his last card here. He does have a clue, and Matt's got the tracker advantage at this point. I'm really interested to see just like how valuable the blue splash is for the Metallic Rebuke. I think it was a smart choice for the Pro Tour because you expected a lot of the Jeskai copycat decks, and their reasoning for playing it was to be able to have a way to answer Torrential Gearhulk. But I feel like Torrential Gearhulk is just not really, not one of the more popular archetypes anymore. So having the lands come into play tapped is a real cost.
This is. Are we starting to see the maybe slightly more powerful late game of Matt Baccio's deck take over here? I mean, Ben doesn't have access to Noxious Gearhulk, right? He just can't do those type of things.
Yeah, Noxious Gearhulk is certainly powerful. I still feel like most of this matchup is just on like Tireless Tracker advantage.
That's what it's felt like.
Yeah. It's just, again, incremental card advantage. They're both. Matt Baccio not only has the 3 copies of Tireless Tracker in the main deck, he also has 2 copies of Gonti, Lord of Luxury, which is also a great card in the mirror. So, yeah, I think Matt definitely tailored his deck to be able to be favorable in the mirror.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this matchup ends up going overall as well. I mean, we can see how this game's going. It's a real grinder, right? Yeah. An absolute attrition fest here. But, Ben had an unusually slow start. No 1-drop or 2-drop at all, as far as affecting the board on his side. No Whining Constrictor. He did not have either Grim Flare. He did not have Gnarlwood Dryad early in the game. He's also playing 4 Scrap Heap Scrounger, Paul. Like, his deck is able to power out a lot of power in the early stages, and he, turn 4, he had 0 power on board.
Yeah.
It was like nothing. Oh.
Definitely not the start that he was looking for.
Well, how about some power?
That is some power.
Boom. Verdurous Gearhulk for Ben Stark.
And as Matt Baccio's tapped out, Ben can just confidently put them onto his Grim Flares and attack.
And this does look nice. When all your creatures have trample, throwing around these +1/+1 counters really matters.
Yeah.
The downside, of course, for Ben Stark is that he's got a lot of work to do. Matt's at 23. This is going to be a multiple turn process here for him to keep attacking Matt. And Matt, he's got trades here if he wants them.
Yeah, so Matt has to be very careful of a double block in this situation because Ben Stark did sacrifice a clue. He still has access to a Fatal Push that he could use to kill either the Grim Flare or, of course, with the Revolt ability, he can kill the Tireless Tracker.
Interestingly, he will certainly kill the Tireless Tracker.
Yeah.
If, let's say Matt says, yeah, whatever, take it. He's just like, kill the tracker,
yeah,
right?
So this situation right here is a very, very scary double block. I think I would...
Here, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is interesting. So if he goes for the double block and Ben uses his Fatal Push, he gets to keep his Tireless Tracker, though, right? Like, he gets 2 for 1, but then Matt still has a Tireless Tracker when he untaps. That has to be important to him, too, right?
Yeah. But if I suppose if he goes for the double block, then he probably just lets both creatures die, then Fatal Pushes the Tireless Tracker, and Matt Baccio has an empty board.
Right, because the Grim Flare was big enough to kill both blockers there.
I believe so. Is it? Oh no, it's a 7/7. It wasn't actually.
It was not quite right. It was 1 short.
Yeah. So Matt Baccio, they're choosing to just go for the single block on the 5/5 Grim Flare, which allows Ben Stark to get two Grim Flare activations here. He gets to get the best sculpt his draws and get the best draw for the next couple of turns, maybe. Yeah.
All of them in the bin.
Could be anything.
He must have something specifically in mind, right? The tracker, like you said, or something like that. Yeah.
Tireless trackers and Gearhulks. Although it looks like Ben Stark's only playing 2 copies of Verder's Gearhulk, which I feel is one of the more important cards in these green-black mirrors, especially if you want to be aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason, he's trying to be low to the ground. He's trying to be the aggressor with his build.
Yeah, Verder's Gearhulk was one of the most important cards, especially when playing against the green-black Delirium control deck, because it's kind of your way to attack through all the spiders that the control deck can come up with, although Matt Baccio hasn't drawn any of those yet. I wonder if Ben has the Fatal Push. Nope.
Baccio says, good to know. It seems relevant.
Ooh. Always nice to draw the Evolving Wilds with the tracker in play.
I mean, if you're sitting in Ben's seat, are you like, well, that's game?
Well, Ben did get 2 Grimflayer activations, so he's going to be drawing a great spell next turn. But yes, Matt Baccio basically drawing 2 additional cards, has the tracker advantage. And Ben needs like a combination of removal for the Tireless Tracker, but also threats to continue pressuring Matt Baccio. So not a great spot since Ben is only drawing 1 card a turn.
Yeah, how pedestrian.
Right.
Yeah, you saw that hand gesture from Ben. He's like, nothing I can do, buddy. Knock yourself out. And I think Baccio is going to oblige him quite nicely with that and draw a million cards here.
Yes, Matt Baccio also is up 3 lands on Ben too, so he just has a lot more options, and cracking a clue, it doesn't actually slow him down very much. He can afford to just crack the clues and just play a lot of the threats in his hand.
Yeah, look at all those lands.
Yeah. Nice beta lands.
Yeah, I love those. Baccio, clearly a man of high taste.
Yeah. Probably a little better than the mismatched full art Zendikar lands that I play. Hoping that I get a feature match to Tilt Luis. That is...
Even Ben's are matching.
Ooh, this is an
Baccio
aggressive attack.
is turning the corner here on Ben Stark and jamming.
Yeah,
Ben could block the Grimflayer. Yeah, he's gonna.
Yeah, it seems like, Ben is the aggressive deck here, but Matt Baccio's actually got the advantage in the life totals.
It's kind of interesting. Matt's sacrificing clues now.
He must not have a lot of action in hand and wants to just get in for extra damage.
Yep. He knows the way's clear from that Fatal Push. He wouldn't even have a Tireless Tracker if Ben had one, so he can just move in here.
I see a lot of lands in Matt Baccio's hand.
And on the battlefield.
Yeah.
But, with a Tireless Tracker that has yet to be answered, that's not even a bad thing. He's got Ben down to 6 with a lethal Tireless Tracker, while Matt's at a pretty cushy 15 life here. Though, again, this should have been a great card, right? Didn't Ben put like 5 cards in his graveyard? And, yeah, there's a Traverse. So
there you go.
Basically, it's a Gearhulk if he wants it to be, or a Tireless Tracker. I think he has another one in his library, doesn't he?
He might have one more Tireless Tracker left.
Yeah.
And so this is one
actually, does he even have another Gearhulk left? We may have actually already seen both of them, haven't we?
It is possible. He might be out of...
Oh,
no.
Oh, no.
This is not good. Matt Baccio has to be very excited that Ben can get the most powerful creature in his deck, and it is a 3/3 Death Touch creature.
That's right. And he might just have to get another one here. He actually had 2 copies of Traverse, but... Oh, he did have another Tireless Tracker. Oh, Ben. Slow
he's like,
on us a little
I
bit.
know I only have 1 tracker in my deck, so
Yeah.
I'm going to show you the Gnarlwood Dryad, and then I'm going to get the tracker.
Now he's going to attack with his Grimflayer.
All right, Matt
It just
Baccio.
got pushed. Yeah, Ben needed that to survive for sure. That would have been very good.
So I was actually just about to mention that I think Matt Baccio, given that he had the Fatal Push, should have very likely used it on his turn. If Ben Stark had a Blossoming defense, then Matt Baccio would have taken 2 less damage. Also, if Ben just didn't have a Fatal Push on his turn, Matt Baccio would not have lost his Tireless Tracker that turn.
Yes. That giving your opponent Revolt is a very real thing in these cards. What was this from Baccio?
Oh, wow. Is he flooded?
Were you right when you said he had like lands and that's all he had?
I saw a few lands. I didn't realize it was all lands. Oh, my goodness.
And, I said, well, that seems fine to me. He's got a Tireless Tracker, but he doesn't anymore. And all of a sudden, Ben Stark looks like he's in good position. What just happened? How is this possible? Matt drew 4 cards last turn.
He drew all of the lands.
Is this real?
This is pretty insane.
Ben is so far ahead, he's putting clues into his graveyard.
I don't need these clues. You're just dead.
Look at this. He's going to try to kill him in 2 turns here. 4, 7, 9 damage. Next turn, it's lethal.
You know what the absurd part about this is? Matt Baccio is incredibly flooded, and none of his lands is a Hissing Quagmire.
That is unbelievable. This is pretty unlucky for Baccio.
And I'm also not exactly I know Matt wants to thin out his deck for to draw better threats, but at the same time, he is playing Tireless Tracker in his deck.
Yes.
Once you're on like 13 lands, I feel like it's
That was a land off the top, Paul. I'm not kidding.
Was that just 18 lands?
Man, Matt Baccio did not run hot
He looks
stretch
stunned.
there.
He's just like, what happened?
Did you see that eye roll
Yeah.
from him? That was unreal. He didn't need much.
If we had the advantage meter,
The advantage bar
it would have been firmly in Matt Baccio's favor.
It would have for sure. Now, when his Tireless Tracker died, it would have dipped back.
Right.
But come on.
Yeah, that was.
How does he
insane.
have just nothing there? That was pretty unlucky.
I wonder if Ben Stark drew Fatal Push that turn, or was Ben Stark tapped out when Matt Baccio made that attack? Because
no, he had 1 green up.
he had 1 green up.
Yeah. Or sorry, 1 green black up.
1 green black up. Okay.
Yeah,
Because if
I'd love. See, this is where,
instant replay.
I know, or just being able to be like, Ben, come over here for 5 seconds. Like, what just happened there? Like, what did you put on top? Was it the Traverse? Did you already have the Fatal Push? Why didn't you use it before? And he would have answers, and it's just hard for us to piece together because he did 4 things in 1 turn, right?
I think Ben had to have drawn the Fatal Push that turn.
Yeah.
Because when he made the attack, and there was a trade that happened,
Yeah.
he could have killed the Tireless Tracker.
He also had sacked a clue that turn.
Right.
Yeah,
But he didn't.
Remember, we were saying that Matt knew he didn't have Fatal Push because no way he untaps with the Tireless Tracker in that spot.
So Matt basically opened up the ability to play the Fatal Push on his Tireless Tracker. I don't know if that would have gotten him back in the game. Given how Matt drew that game, he probably would have just drawn 2 more lands.
Yeah.
But wow. All right, so how are they going to sideboard here?
Yeah, this is going to be really important.
Yeah, it looks like Matt Baccio is going to go up to the full 4 copies of Tireless Tracker. There's an Ob Nixilis as well, and potentially 2 more Ruinous Paths, although I'm not exactly sure if he'd bring that in. Ben Stark does play 3 copies of Nissa Voice of Zendikar, but actually didn't play any of them in the first game. I imagine Walking Ballista, probably not a great card for Matt Baccio, as he has no counter synergies whatsoever. One really interesting card. Ben Stark has Lifecrafter's Bestiary in his sideboard.
Really?
Yeah.
So he can grind too.
He can grind too, and Matt Baccio doesn't really have a whole lot of answers. Like, if I were to guess, I can't really imagine Matt Baccio keeping in those natural obsolescences in this matchup.
It's not good enough just for Gearhulks, right?
Exactly. So if he boards them out, the Lifecrafter's Bestiary could just win Ben the game.
Yeah, totally. Also, I don't know how muddled that got down the stretch from Matt Baccio's perspective, but remember, there was Traverse the Ulvenwald after Matt had seen 2 Gearhulks.
Yeah.
And Ben's like, Gnarlwood Dryad.
Oh, yeah. Ben's going to have a lot more targets. He's boarding in 2 extra copies of Gonti, Lord of Luxury.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, from Matt's perspective, he's got natural obsolescence.
Right.
And he should know, right, that Ben doesn't have any more than 2 copies of Gear Hulk. Like, there's just no way Ben gets an Narwhal Dryad over a Gear Hulk that late in the game.
Yes, yes.
So he probably would be like, yeah, I'm just taking these out.
Yeah, he did see a Scrap Heap Scrounger, so
That
maybe,
is true.
maybe
That
he
is
can-
true. Yes, that is true. And you usually don't play 2
Right.
Scrap Heap Scroungers or whatever.
Although
So-
at the same time, the Black-Green Delirium deck shouldn't really care too much about a Scrap Heap Scrounger. There's just a lot of ways to kind of brick wall it. You have your Ishkanaz. You have like a large Tireless Tracker. You have your Delirious Grim Flayers. There's just a lot of ways to just block it. All right. Ben with a more reasonably aggressive draw has the 2-drop.
All right, there's Whiny Constrictor. And I like this a lot better if I'm sitting in Ben's seat. This is just the type of draw that just forces Matt to react to you, where before he didn't have that. I mean, you know, Ben got kind of fortunate to have Matt just completely run out of gas down the stretch there, though that isn't the likely outcome from where that game was.
All right, a Gonti from Matt Baccio.
Also, I will note here, Paul, there's about 16 minutes left in the round.
Really?
Yeah. That was
Wow.
That's in the main clock. So we should expect that these players will have 5 to 7, maybe more minutes than
Right.
that. So they're somewhere in the mid-20s, I would guess, for total time left, which is okay. They can do it, but they can't play 2 more games like that first one.
Yeah. It is crazy to me. Just I get so into the game that I don't even realize how much time is left. That was a super grindy game. There were 5 Tireless Trackers cast in that game.
Yeah. And here goes Ben again with Tireless Tracker into Evolving Wilds.
Oh, the classic. And it never feels great being on the other side of that.
I mean, I was ready to call it a game last time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
yeah.
like it was turn 14 or whatever,
Right.
but
And no tracker out of Matt Baccio. Needs to kill that Tireless Tracker as quickly as possible. Probably a Ruinous Path here.
yep.
And attacking.
Ooh, he's getting in with Gonti. It's interesting.
I wonder if that means he has a removal spell for the Winding Constrictor.
Yeah, he could have a Fatal Push or a Grasp of Darkness, perhaps. We'll find out shortly. We'll find out right now.
Here we go, here we go.
Yeah. I wonder if it's Ben's or if it's his. It's his.
It's a Dead Snake.
And then there's Fatal Push.
Fatal Push.
Yeah. Little pump fake there for Ben Stark, but Summoning Sickness will keep Rishkar at home as he passes the turn back to Baccio.
Matt Baccio definitely needs to pick up the pace a little bit if he actually wants to win the match here. So much value.
And that is an interesting thing, too, right? You know, Matt has to be really concerned about winning 2 games in this grindy matchup in the time frame that he has. Ben being up a game is pretty huge.
Yeah, when I'm generally in situations like this, I'm not the fastest player, and so I do try to pick it up. Maybe not think through all the scenarios and just try to autopilot and play maybe 90% efficiency just to try to win the match, because getting a draw is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, this is an interesting matchup, too. This is not one where you just play your cards and see what happens. People are absolutely, needing to make sure that sequencing and maximizing value and all that stuff is there. Well, Ben cannot feel good about having to just keep 1-for-1ing with Gonti. I mean, look, Matt's got a pile of Channel Fireball sleeves on his side there. Those are Ben's cards from Gonti, but he's keeping the pressure up.
Yep.
It just feels like, as a long-term game plan, that will start to sputter out at some point as Matt Baccio really starts to reap the benefits of the Gonti cards. Oh, wow. How about a Tireless Tracker?
Evolving
Oh,
Wilds?
God, and Evolving Wilds.
This is the turnaround.
All right, game 3. I mean, it'll take 10 turns.
What if Ben then plays his Tireless Tracker and his Evolving Wilds?
Okay, then I'd let us stay on this game
All
for
right,
a while.
all right. Ben taking full advantage in this match of the revolt ability on the fatal push. He's used it. He's cast it 3 times now, I believe, to get a larger creature.
Ooh. How about a gear hook off the top?
Ooh.
That could be some business. I mean, he could slam in for a heck of a lot of damage with that gear hook here.
I wonder, does Ben have Delirium? I see an artifact creature in a land. He has to have Delirium, right?
Yeah, he used 2 fatal pushes.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, this is a lot of power on the board. And Matt only has a Tireless Tracker up with the face down card. 6 mana. Interesting.
Ballista, but it looks like Matt had stopped him. He's going to sacrifice a clue.
I do like this play.
Yeah. Is this going to be a fatal push here, or what's going on? Nothing.
Well, it was a walking ballista for 3.
Yeah.
So Matt Baccio wanted to sack the clue in response because if the 3/3 walking ballista enters the battlefield, Matt Baccio cannot crack the clue end of turn, as Ben Stark can just use 2 counters to kill it and still have an active walking ballista.
Right.
This way, Ben has to lose his walking ballista to get rid of the tracker.
Yep. Yeah, that's smart from Baccio there.
I wonder what that face down card is.
Me too. It's been there for a while.
Yeah. It's got to be a traverse. There's no other 1 green spell in his deck.
No. It's funny.
Right.
We never actually saw it, but we know what it is. And the fact that he's going through his library like that probably means that he has Delirium.
Kind of an interesting spot here. He has a lot of good options here. There's Ishkana, there's Noxious Gearhulk, and Tireless Tracker. He can't get another Gonti as he's already played
man.
2 of them.
Look at this. He's
Yeah.
getting an Ishkana, but that doesn't play really great into what Ben happens to have, that Verdurous
Right.
Gearhook, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, this was what I was talking about earlier. Verdurous Gearhulk makes it so the Ishkana.
Ooh, he just drew a snake.
Ooh, is he going to wait a turn?
That's what I'm wondering.
If Ben has a land, he can play Snake into Verdurous Gearhulk with the Rishkar.
Yes. He's also got Obnixilis available. Okay.
Oh.
So he's just going to start ticking up Obnixilis, probably just hoping to hit a land there,
Right.
which he didn't.
Protect the Planeswalker. That's the name of the game here.
Yep, that he has changed gears to that.
Oh, looks like Matt Baccio has a fatal push here. And if Matt Baccio has another removal spell, he can just kill the Obnixilis. Actually, he has a Hissing Quagmire in play, so if he really wants to get rid of it, he could also just activate the Hissing Quagmire and send everything at Obnixilis. No, that wouldn't kill it, because Rishkar could chump the Ishkana. It would get it down to 1 loyalty.
By the way, it looks like somehow Ben Stark's Tireless Tracker ended up in Matt Baccio's graveyard.
Oh, from the Gonti.
Yeah, which I'm really hoping isn't his only creature giving him delirium or something stupid, but I can't quite see. Fatal Push is going to kill Ben, but we'll tell our spotter to get the... Apparently there's a Tireless Tracker in Matt's graveyard that's Ben's. They can just double check to make sure that that's clean. The chat caught that one.
Right. Matt Baccio with the full value Ruinous Path awakened onto the land. When you have grindy games like that, this happens fairly frequently.
You can see that one Tireless Tracker that's the wrong color. There you go.
Did he have Delirium before, after that?
I'm going to assume. I can't see because the cards are off the screen. It would be kind of disastrous if that weren't the case. But
Instant sort. Oh, he had his Gontis in his graveyard.
Cool.
Okay, that was
Yep,
fine.
it works.
Yeah.
So there's Verdurous Gearhulk now, and ready to squash some spiders here.
Ben just has to get aggressive here.
Yeah, Ben has a lot of cards in his hand and hasn't hit a land drop in a couple of turns.
He could probably ask Matt Baccio for tips on that.
What is that card? What is the Gonti card?
It could have just been 4 lands.
Do you even get to take it if it's 4 lands?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
can't remember how. Like, I know you can't play it, but do you even get to face down it? Let's read Gonti again just to make sure. Look at the top 4. Exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom. Yeah, you do. For as long as that card remains exiled, you can look at it, you can cast it.
It has to be a land, right?
Yeah, he must have just whiffed. Because it just feels like.
Yeah, the turn where Matt Baccio just like played a Tireless Tracker when he had 6 mana out of his hand and didn't have anything else to do,
Yeah.
probably would have played the card in his hand. Maybe it's just like a Scrap Heap Scrounger, so he just never had the opportunity to play it.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh, it's
Just
a
kidding.
Gearhulk!
Oh my goodness.
All right, so he was just trying to set up to get max value off of the card. It certainly wasn't a miss. It was one of the biggest hits it could have been.
So generally, it is pretty hard to, because they're both 5-drops, it is hard to build a deck with both Gearhulk and Ishkana. But if you steal your opponent's Gearhulk, everything's fine.
Wow.
And I like this attack. Matt Baccio also choosing to be aggressive here, as he does need to try to close out this game for a game 3.
Yeah, this is a big attack. And Ben has no good blocks.
Yeah.
He's going to put him down to 3.
Okay. Yeah, Matt Baccio playing to win here. It does leave him a little more vulnerable here on the crackback, but I do like the attack.
I do too. Yeah, it sets him up to win with Ishkana next turn.
Oh, that would be pretty awesome.
He could just do it, right?
He could, although Ben is
Could have
leaving up 3
removal.
mana.
Yeah,
If anything, it would be better to just do it on maybe Ben's upkeep,
sure.
so Ben can't use the mana end of turn. So Ben now on the defensive. Ben actually has some pretty decent blocks. He does have a Hissing Quagmire up. Oh, all right. So Matt Baccio decided to just go for it with the spider, with the drain ability, and Ben Stark did have the Grasp of Darkness. Ben still needs to answer the Ishkana here.
Yes. He's going to dig back a
And just-
Scrap Heap Scrounger. He can't actually get in for 13 here, though, right?
I don't think so. He does have a Whiny Constrictor in play, so
Like-
maybe if he finds a Gearhulk.
Yeah, if he finds a Gearhulk, maybe he could pile
Oh,
just a ton of counters
It's
up.
impossible, though, right? Because there's one on his side and one on Matt Baccio's side. He's only playing 2,
Right.
right? So he can't actually search out a Gearhulk.
Oh, how savage. He has the Traverse.
Oh, a Noxious Gearhulk?
And he can cast it.
He has one in his sideboard, yes.
Wow. He can even cast it here. Take down Ishkana.
It's going to gain him 7 life.
Look at this.
What a turnaround.
Wow.
I totally missed it. Ben Stark also has one Noxious Gearhulk in his sideboard. Oh, my goodness.
What the heck? Ben was so dead.
Right. And this kind of goes back to, if you wanted to go for the Ishkana activation, you should have waited till Ben's upkeep, because there's no point where Ben could have actually used his removal spell, because Matt could have killed him in response
Oh my
with the
God.
drain, right? Because Ben Stark had exactly enough mana to cast the Noxious
Yes.
Gearhulk.
And
So
he even had to tap his Rishkar and other creature
Exactly.
just to do that. Wow.
that's
That
maximum
tiny
punishment.
timing misstep.
Right.
You know?
And it doesn't seem so obvious, right?
No.
You're just playing your game. You're like, all right, I'm just going to go for it. But the timing was so important there.
And Ben is right back in this game. He's
Oh,
now ahead on
He's
board.
incredibly ahead on board now.
How about we trade Noxious Gearhulks now? Is Ben still ahead on board, though?
It looks like it. Oh, Matt's still choosing to be aggressive here.
I like that because it
Yeah.
does force a chump block there from the Constrictor.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. I just got really excited there, Marshall. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that was great. Players have a little over 4 minutes left in the round.
Going back to what I said about the Scrap Heap Scrounger, looks kind of embarrassing here.
It looks horrific. In fact, he just is forced to attack with it. Baccio just says, sure. And it's just Whining Constrictor for Stark. And it looks like he's dead.
Yeah. I wonder,
or nearing death.
I wonder
anyway.
what the downside of not blocking the Scrap Heap Scrounger is there. Matt Baccio doesn't actually have a good Fatal Push Revolted target.
No.
And if Ben Stark had a Grasp of Darkness, he could have just chosen to kill the Noxious Gearhulk anyways.
Can you Fatal Push the Swamp? I mean, in any scenario?
In any scenario,
Yeah.
yes, I believe so.
It has a converted mana cost of 0, just
Yes.
like a creature land.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Fatal Push is good.
It turns out it's a good Magic
Yeah,
card.
that's a good one.
Wow, Matt Baccio does have a Grasp of Darkness in his hand as well.
Yeah, that probably will seal the deal. A near comeback from Ben Stark, but now it looks like this one's slipping away from him. And that's kind of bad news for both players. It's obviously better for Baccio to pick up a match point here rather than 0, but picking up a draw at this point, which it definitely looks like they're heading towards, is kind of a bummer.
It looks like Matt Baccio forgot to put a counter on his Tireless Tracker. Just kidding.
Okay, it was a little late. Judge might be
Okay.
saying you did actually miss that.
Yeah. Time is of the essence. Ain't got no time for counters on a tracker. Ben is at 4 life here. If Ben does not double block the Verdish Gearhulk, like if Ben Stark chooses to block Verdish Gearhulk with a smaller creature, Matt can win the game here. But I imagine Ben Stark's going to be playing around that as well as he can. Hissing. I think Matt Baccio is telling Ben to just wait a second. You activated your Hissing Quagmire. Let me think here. Let me see if I want to use my Grasp of Darkness on your Hissing Quagmire. Although this doesn't actually seem like a great attack. I think Matt's just doing this because he has to try to win this game.
Ben just heard them announce time in the round on the main match, though they're a couple
Oh,
of
wait,
minutes behind that.
I think Ben is actually just dead, isn't he?
I think he is. I mean, there's Menace,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Right.
Yep.
Noxious Gearhulk has Menace.
Yep. He can't
So you
block
can't
it.
block all the creatures.
Yeah, they're all lethal.
What a game.
And that's going to do it. Man, that's... I'm bumming, man. Those are two really cool games, really
Right.
interactive, really swingy, and these players are going to try to shuffle up for a third game. It just doesn't feel like they're going to be able to get this done. They've got 2 minutes on their clock, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wanted
missed,
to watch this.
Yeah,
you know?
I did. I missed the menace on the Noxious Gearhulk, which actually meant it was a lethal attack.
Yeah, yeah,
That was on me.
I mean, he did need to kill the snake, too.
Right.
Otherwise, he did have a double block, but yeah. Okay.
So, is there a world where Ben can win this? He is
Yes.
on the play.
He's the one who can.
Right. Turn 2 Winding Constrictor.
Well, how about turn 1 Gnarlwood Dryad?
Gnarlwood
Let's
Dryad?
just, if you're going to win it, let's win it.
But he doesn't have time to board the Gnarlwood Dryads back in.
That's true.
Yeah. He has
That's
to
true.
just play whatever he
You're
has.
totally right.
Oh, and Matt Baccio does opt to sideboard here because Matt Baccio can't possibly win on the draw. So if he has whatever cheap interaction he has in the sideboard, he wants to bring all of those in.
Yeah.
I would be tempted to bring in all the Walking Ballistas, the Natural States. Just you got to play defense here.
Yep. You do what you got to do.
Yep.
You got to protect that match point, but
Yep.
this is unfortunate. Like I said, it's just a bit of a bummer, just given how cool these games have played out and
Yeah.
how swingy they had been as well.
That's the thing. People like to say that, mirrors aren't great, mirrors aren't boring. I thought this was a very interesting match.
Agreed.
Yeah.
In fact, it's funny that you say that, Paul, because Ben tweeted about that earlier this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I actually like mirrors a lot.
He likes the Jeskai control mirrors and the black-green constrictor mirrors, I believe.
Yeah. And it looks like the judge is just throwing the slip on the table. What that means is that they weren't able to start before time was called, so they don't even get to do their 5 turns.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
I believe that if you're still shuffling and presenting when the time's called, they don't. They
don't let you
yeah.
just play the match. Yeah. They're probably just talking about some of the interesting plays in their match.
Yep, and they're going to have to take a draw. So these players are going to have some work to do. That's going to do it for our live coverage in round 10. We'll be back after these messages.